Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back to talk Amazing Race. Amazing Race 34 is just around the corner, and we are back with a preview of the Amazing Race 34 cast. Let's welcome in our panel today to talk about this all. Of course, with us, we cannot do it without her. Our chief Amazing Race correspondent here for Rob's Podcast. It's Jessica Liese. Jess, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rob. We were just talking before we started recording that this is the first time we've had two Amazing Race seasons in a year. And I was like, wait, that was this year? Because I have no concept of time anymore.
Yeah, would that start? What, the first week of January? Amazing Race 33 for the COVID season that they finished, and so that was fun.
Yeah, it was great. I was happy to have it back, but I feel like now maybe this season will feel a little bit more like the Amazing Race that we have come to know and love.
Okay, all right, and of course, a guy we know and love. He has previews of the Amazing Race cast up for Parade.com. Please welcome back Mike Bloom.
Thank you for using the royal we, Rob, in a week that is
Yes.
all about royalty. And Jess is in purple as well, so.
You know, I was thinking, going back to that first week
Oh my God,
the
wait!
Amazing Race.
They visited the Queen and Boris Johnson, both of whom are no longer in power.
It was the cursed first 2-hour episode of the Amazing Race 33. I mean, ultimately, yeah, it was a bad omen for the whole season. They were going to have COVID, the shutdown, and everything. So, the Amazing Race 33 definitely got off on the wrong foot. But we are here to get off on the right foot talking about Amazing Race 34. A preview first. We'll meet all 12 teams. Yes, you heard me correctly. 12 teams. And then at the end, we'll do our draft. So a little get to know ya. And then we will then go ahead and draft our Amazing Race teams for this coming season. Jess, Amazing Race in a proper fall time. Well, not a great time slot, but at least on the fall schedule.
Yeah, I'm happy that we're not like sitting around back in the old days waiting for whatever new prestige drama CBS is trying to unload, waiting for that to fail so we can have our time slot back. Look at you, Viva Laughlin. Those were the good old days.
Or waiting for football preempted 60 minutes. Now we have to sit through what's his name, Andy Rooney, complaining about something before we can watch Amazing Race on a Sunday night.
Oh, R.I.P. Andy Rooney. I kind of miss those days, and I kind of don't. Like when it was supposed to start at 9:00, but it'll start at like 9:32 after we run everything else. I feel like we're getting a little bit more respect. At least we're in a hard time slot with a lead in from the show that everybody actually cares about.
Okay. So, yeah, the Amazing Race is definitely going to be taking some things from the Amazing Race 33, changing things up. Mike, you have been breaking the stories here on the Amazing Race. What do we know about the new format for the Amazing Race, or any twist to the format?
Call me T.A.R. Onin Pharaoh. That's how much news I've been breaking over the course of this. So Amazing Race, as we mentioned before, new time slot. Previously, I know, again, it's so odd that we talked about a season at the beginning of 2022, but that took up the usual Survivor slot right of Wednesdays at 8/9. It's now going to be airing usually Wednesdays at 10. Starting next week. Of course, after the 2-hour Survivor premiere, we're going to get an hour of Amazing Race. Then we have this weird wackadoo week where we're going to have a 90-minute episode 2 of Survivor and a 90-minute episode 2 of Amazing Race.
Okay.
And then thereafter, it's going to air at 10 p.m. Jess talks about the lead-in. Say the lead-in is a little softer than something like Tough as Nails got this time last season, because we do have the real Love Boat just nice snug in the middle of that sandwich for now, to a point that Jess made earlier. We'll see if that show gets dry docked soon, and then maybe Amazing Race would get bumped up.
Well, that dry docked is nicer than sinking.
Yeah, they'll make it to land at the end of the day. But yeah, so this season of The Amazing Race has a couple of things to tout for it. So you mentioned the similarities, or maybe not so, to season 33. I did get a chance to talk with our mutual friend, Phil Kogan. That is an interview that's going to be up at parade.com at the beginning of next week. Got Phil's thoughts on all the teams, of course, as he usually does with me. And he also gave a little bit of a preview for the season. So a lot of what we saw from the back, like 2/3 of Amazing Race 33, the post-COVID section, I think it's actually going to carry over a bit into season 34. The charter flight is staying for now. There's still going to be a lot of self-driving. They still have the COVID protocols in play. I do think we're going to be visiting, I'd say, some more industrious places. Like we're going to Florence as an example. We're not going off to like, hey,
I think it's Florida.
No, I mean, listen, that would be a hell of a place to finish.
If you're worried about COVID,
yeah.
maybe don't go there.
Well, they wouldn't have a problem with any sort of COVID restrictions.
True.
Exactly. So I think we're mainly, though, I think still sticking to like, okay, let's go out to the countryside where like things are relatively separated and out there and do these tasks. We are relatively still staying in Europe. We're going to Austria, France, Iceland, Italy. I know that they are starting in, I believe, Munich as well, which will be the first time that an Amazing Race season has a starting line in a country outside of the United States, where like they're actually going to all fly to Munich, and then they're going to do the big pomp and circumstance starting line, as opposed to like what we did last season, right? Where it's, okay, you got your first clue on your phone and now fly out to Heathrow and then be able to just run out of the airport from there. We're getting a hard and fast.
And that wasn't even a COVID thing. That was the creative decision.
Right. And they also did that during the social media season as well. But they're going to do like a full out starting line in Munich. And then the one I think new to do for this season in terms of legs and destinations is, believe it or not, 34 seasons in, we are still hitting first. For the first time, the Amazing Race US is going to Jordan, baby.
Okay.
Finally, a CBS reality show gets there. Like they've been trying since 2002.
True. Yeah. Who would have thought? A very different timeline, right? We recently had, commemorated September 11th and thinking about a very different season of Survivor Arabia back when, before it was Survivor the Marquesa.
Okay.
So, yeah. So the big takeaways, I would say, from a more structural perspective is that, Rob, you mentioned 12 teams. This is the first season to have 12 teams since season 15. And even back in those early days, so they tried 12 teams for like seasons 3 and 4 because it was like a big sensation and they wanted to, burgeon out the seasons. And then they put them in for, I think, seasons 10 and 15, but those were used as twists. Where season 10, they did like a double elimination twist where a team got eliminated halfway through a leg. Season 15, a team got outright eliminated at the starting line. So it's like it's pretty much always been 11 for a little while. But they decided to add one more team. And the reason why is because of the big, bold, italicized, and underlined, talking point for this Amazing Race season that they've been promoting. No non-elimination legs. All stakes. No, you can't rely on being saved by the bastion of Phil Kogan. If you come in last, you're gone.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, all stakes. Is that the tagline they're going with?
I don't think so.
Or is that a Mike Bloom original?
It doesn't make much sense in terms of syntax, which makes sense as to why it's a Mike Bloom original. All stakes.
Is that when you insure your barbecue? You go to all stakes?
You're in good hands. Yeah.
That was the meat block, right, from season 7, Jeff?
Right.
All stakes.
It was all stakes. Well, it was all stakes and some saliva glands. But...
Yeah. Okay. I love to see it. However, Jess, what is the likelihood that we're gonna be like still racing? Like, we're not gonna call it non-elimination, but we will have it in some way, shape, or form.
Somewhere between 100 and 150% likely. There's no way that we don't keep that element in there. I would venture to guess that we're going to have a tighter schedule as we've had in recent seasons, where there's a lot of legs that are keep on racing legs without a pit stop that we just don't see. But I would say there's some of these where we would normally have a non-elimination leg. We're just going to have Phil saying, this leg isn't over yet, keep on racing. And this is a mega leg or what have you.
Oh, I missed the mega leg.
Mega leg.
Mega leg.
Fun to say.
Yeah, because I think what really gave it away was that even before the cast was released, right, CBS put out this promotional thing of, here are all the pit stops that we're going to for this season. and there were 12 of them. And theoretically, if there was one team eliminated at the end of each leg, that would only make for 10 episodes. So you'd have to imagine there's going to be at least a couple of, hey, like, take a brief, moment to say hi to me. Here's your next clue. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. Or, if we want to go really dark, it could be they're just thinking that some of these teams will probably get COVID and have to drop out. I mean, it happened in Canada. Of course, then they brought them all back, but
in that case, then they'd have to put even more non-elimination legs in, right? That's what happened with the Rune and Natalia, got spared like 15 times because of the teams that dropped out due to COVID.
Yeah, that was the lesson that Amazing Race Canada took from last season, was we need to just never eliminate anybody ever. So I don't think we're going in the direction of everybody gets eliminated all the time. I think we're going to be, if anything, there will be weeks where we're going to be like, could somebody please just leave the race already?
Yeah, I'm fine with rebranding the non-elimination legs. That I feel like is always my least favorite part of the Amazing Race. So I think that this is an idea that has been a long time coming. So happy to see at least the attempt to say, okay, no non-elimination legs, even if we're going to get them in some way, shape, or form.
This is a situation where I feel like my intelligence is a little bit insulted.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to pull one over on the viewing public. And I guess maybe the three of us as, quasi-professionals do not count as the viewing public, but it's like, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, CBS.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll see. We'll see what they do. Anything else, Mike, from the format change that we should be aware of before we talk about the teams?
Yeah, the only other thing that I would say is, again, stuff that is sticking around from season 33. I outright asked Phil, is the U-turn coming back for season 34? And he gave me the big NO. So again, your mileage may vary. I know that stuff with the U-turn is one of the most strategic elements of the Amazing Race. And certainly with season 32, it was a big talking point as to how it was utilized. Disappeared for season 33. Phil sort of gave me the reasoning of just production's fine, leaving it away for a little bit. I don't know if, relatively speaking, anything new is going to be brought in. Just to your point with Amazing Race Canada, I know that they have brought in a fair amount of things over the past couple seasons named after various road hazards. It seems like for this amount of time, the Amazing Race US is very strictly focused on maybe its most simplistic race structure since the very beginning. And that means no U-turns. I'm pretty sure the yield's not coming back. No fast forwards at the moment. Just good, hard, clean, Amazing Race.
Well, it's cheaper to do too. You don't have to build tasks that people might not complete.
Mm-hmm. Just how do you feel about the lack of twists in the race design here this season?
Well, I think if we have exciting enough tasks and interesting enough people, we're not going to miss them.
Yeah.
And certainly I get very, very tired of all of the talk over, we're going to U-turn this person and we're going to burn the board and we're going to, we're going to all target, we're all going to
burn the board.
Yep. Burn the board. We're all going to band together and target these people. But on the other hand, I'm watching and enjoying Amazing Race Australia right now, which is basically packed with twists and is barely recognizable as an Amazing Race season at a certain point. Mm-hmm. So I think as long as it's compelling, as long as they're doing things that we enjoy watching, we're not going to miss it. But, if it starts to drag, I might revise that opinion a little bit.
Okay. All right. Let's start to talk about our 12 teams that we have here on the Amazing Race. Mike, not a lot of information out there about the 12 teams.
No, I mean, what I've been given and sort of what the general public has been given as well are, very short bios, aka basically full names, age, occupation, and location, and obviously relationship. And then sort of like what we've been getting with Survivor as well, there are these 1-minute videos that have been released to social media that give a bit of their background in terms of fandom. Now, that being said, of course, it wouldn't be Amazing Race without a few famous faces on there. What I will say, though, overall about this cast is I know that we enjoyed season 33, but I think there was a lot of understandable griping about, okay, apparently the only way you can get onto Amazing Race nowadays is either to be internet famous or to appear on a talk show and have this inspirational story. Not really the case. this season. Of course, we are going to have a few notable names.
They swerved us.
Yeah, but by and large, I do think that the majority of this cast is just full of degular folks, which I know a lot of like Amazing Race fans have always sort of had their grumbles about, I think, over the years, especially as of late, when there are entire seasons, right, cast around. Here are famous people we want to put on the show.
Okay.
Okay.
Jess, is that a do you feel like that is the case of the Amazing Race fan base is clamoring for more just regular people on the Amazing Race?
I think that has evolved over time, Rob. I think people care a lot less about it in this age where anybody can be internet famous if you post the right TikTok at the right time. I think that matters less to people. I think sometimes people actually enjoy seeing somebody that they recognize, somebody they can root for. I think that certainly it was the case. I would have been one of those people 5 years ago, probably saying like, why are we casting actors and reality TV people and internet celebrities? But then you get somebody like the Holderness family. I'm like, oh yeah, I love those guys. I love their videos. I'm excited for them to be on. So I think it has evolved over time. There's still going to be those old school diehards that really want everybody to look like the people that they see on the bus every morning. But I think it could go either way. And I'm happy to see regular people getting a shot, especially people. There's a lot of people in here that seem to really love the show, and that's key as well.
All right, Mike, who are we talking about first?
All right, so let's start here at the very beginning. And so we are going to go to our first team, Aastha and Nina, baby. We are talking about Aastha and Nina, an engaged couple from, I believe it's Marina Del Ray, California. Yep, that is the case. And yeah, Jesse, if you're speaking about fandom, being on The Amazing Race is Aastha's dream, has been for a long time.
I love it. I love it for her. I love when people's lifelong dream comes true. I think that they also seem to have a realistic view of what it's going to be like and what it's going to entail, what it's going to ask of them, which, nothing is more disappointing than somebody's lifelong dream being to go on The Amazing Race and then them having no idea what they're in for and getting overwhelmed and getting kicked out very quickly. I do not get the sense that these two are in that bucket. I think they have a lot of skills that they're bringing to the table that will help them go far.
Yeah, so I know from the Instagram video, so this is Aastha's dream to be on The Amazing Race, and Nina is just a good fiance.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing, though, Rob.
Yeah.
I think you need a realist. And I think, I don't think you want to both be super fans, because I think one person can be a little bit more realistic and practical about it and not really thinking about necessarily what it means in the greater scheme of things, and to kind of keep you on solid ground when it comes to this stuff.
Now, when we talk about realism, something that really stuck out to me from the 1-minute videos is that Aastha is very upfront about how we're not necessarily going to be physically strong. We are going to be mentally strong. And it's like a little bit of a red-green flag to me. I'm not sure what red and green makes together in terms of
Christmas.
colors. Exactly. And they might end up crossing the finish line by the time Christmas ends up rolling around, where like, I am glad that they acknowledge their shortcomings, because Rob, you and I talked about this very recently, right? When breaking down the cast of Survivor 43, like, we really applaud when contestants are able to come in and be like, I know that I can do this, and I know that I can be seen as this. And so I do appreciate, again, Aastha having that perspective of being like, yeah, I know I'm probably not the physically strongest person on here, but I am mentally strong. And in a show that deals with, trademark killer fatigue, right? Especially if you plan to run the race after a while and your brain might turn to mush, to be mentally strong, I think, is a very undervalued prospect in the race. But then you have to look at the fact that, okay, if you are not physically strong, and The Amazing Race is a show with a lot of cardio, and sometimes a bit, like, if you have heavy lifting skills, that can really come into handy with a lot of tasks. That is something that may put them on the back foot, depending on the amount of tasks that are in front of them.
Depending on the amount of tasks that are in front of them, Mike, and depending on who else is in this cast. I think, as we'll as we'll go down the list, there are, with a couple of exceptions, I think this is a cast that is less beastie than previous casts. I think physical strength is a lot more level in this cast, and I think it's not going to be like they're not up against ultra marathoners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. And I mean, look at even last season, right? Where we saw people like Ryan and Dusty and Anthony and Spencer beast that first, round of stuff. And we're saying, okay, this makes a lot of sense just given their skill sets. But then once the Amazing Race came back and things pivoted a bit more to like more dexterous, detail oriented skills, that's when Ryan and Dusty kind of hit the skids, and it allowed Raquel and Kayla and Team Holderness to really take the lead on the race. So again, if they skew back towards those tasks, I feel better about Aastha and Nina. It should also be mentioned that like Nina is a veteran as well. So like I think she is also conditioned to some of these circumstances too. So it seems like they're going to be a lot of fun. Actually, I will mention to spoil a bit of my article, Aastha had a run-in with Phil Kogan years before she was cast on The Amazing Race.
Yes. Was she trying out for Tough as Nails?
No, if only, because I think her career is like in business developments, VP of operations. So I don't exactly know if she qualifies for it. He was in an airport. I don't know if
he was filming that commercial.
It could be, yeah. And Aastha ran into him and said, like, I'm a huge fan. I want to be on the show someday. And he's like, yeah, go ahead and apply. And look at this now. It's not on the level of, like Chelsea Meisner sending Jeff Probst a drink when they were in Hollywood during a random chance night. But it's still always fun when like, oh, hey, I ran into you a few years ago at this airport, and now you're actually on the show.
Yeah, this would be like if one of us was on the show. And it's like, oh, yeah, we used to do a podcast with Phil Kogan back in the day. Although I think we might be too close to Phil now to ever be on The Amazing Race.
Yeah. That's our one thing holding us back for
the one thing. The only thing. That and the desire to do it. There's that as well.
Also, really nice to see Aastha and Nina on The Amazing Race. That I think that, and stop me if I'm wrong, I feel like that there have been very few lesbian teams in the history of the show.
Very, very long time.
Specifically in the U.S. version of the show.
Yeah, I want to say, Jess, like Carol and Brandy might be the first one that I can think of. And that was back in what, like season 16?
Yeah, that was going pretty far back. And let's hope they get a better edit.
I will also say, to overview this cast, there's a lot of love going on this season. A lot of couples. And to your point, Rob, though, I am glad that it obviously like spans a larger spectrum than we are particularly used to. But yeah, a lot of romantic relationships happening, particularly in this season of the race.
Yeah. This is the first lesbian team in my history of covering The Amazing Race here, which is now going back from just when did we start? Amazing Race 21?
21. You did 20 without me.
Okay.
The nerve, but
I didn't know you yet, but yeah.
That's true.
Okay. So, I mean, remarkable.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts that hasn't happened more often.
Yeah. Okay. Aastha and Nina. Okay. We'll see where they go in the draft, but gotta feel pretty good about them. No red flags here.
Hopefully red and yellow flags that they'll be seeing over the course of their time in the race. Let's move on to our next team here. We're keeping with the love theme. So this is Abby and Will, and they are childhood sweethearts, high school sweethearts. They have been dating for 8 years, and surprise, surprise, they're big fans of The Amazing Race.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so they have known each other since they were in kindergarten.
And
now, how old are they? So they're 24 and 25 now. So I guess, I mean, how much time did they spend together? Were they together like their whole lives and then became a romantic duo?
So they've been dating for 8 years. So they theoretically got together when they were like 16 years old. I don't know if this is like a Corey and Topanga thing where they were separated for a while and she was too weird for him or he was too much with his head in the clouds and then they finally got together. But yeah, they've been together for a little bit. And this is a case maybe unlike Aastha and Nina, where these two seem to be like in tandem fans of The Amazing Race. The one thing they tout in their video is that like they would sit on the couch watching Amazing Race and like game plan their way through how they would do each of the tasks.
This is going back to the have you ever walked around your living room with a wine bottle on your head?
Mm-hmm.
I think these two are probably the most likely to have done it.
Yeah. But it sounds like that they are like visually preparing themselves and like going through the steps of what it would take to go, okay, if we're okay, imagine this. Okay, we're in Prague. What are we doing?
Yeah, I
Turn
think
left.
we need eventually there's going to be a world, right, where the footage of Will and James watching the bottle task in Amazing Race 20 was being filmed. And now we need footage of them watching Will and James watching the bottle task being done. It just becomes like a hall of mirrors almost of everyone watching the preparation to do a bottle task.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cream of wheat box.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, they tout, I think, a lot of their preparation as well as their mental skills. Abby went to MIT. I believe, like, Will is an accountant as well. Abby's a data scientist, so they are fairly brainy. Phil talked with me in his interview about how, like, Abby in particular was just beaming at the starting line the entire time. This really does seem like a dream come true for her. I will say, I don't know. It's a little bit of a wild card for me. I'm not entirely sure how Abby and will fare. Like, preparation is great, but I think back to, like, God, what was their name? Like Dennis and Erica, maybe? There was a
Isabel.
Isabel,
Dennis and
that's right.
Isabel.
Yeah,
Well,
so
they were the ones they said they were super fans, but then they wore jeans on The Amazing Race. So
yeah, but weren't they also the ones that talk about manifesting? Like, didn't they write on the mirror like we're going to win the Amazing Race and the $1 million before they came out? So like, it might all end up going in a puff of smoke. I don't really see any. I don't know. It's tough to discern like what skill sets do I see from these players, especially on something like Amazing Race where the task can be so incredibly diverse. If they have their heads in a good place, I think they could do fairly well. And it's clear that like they know each other incredibly well. I think even in high stress situations, which I think will definitely help in comparison to maybe some other couples.
Yeah.
I think the missing piece for me is I don't know how much of the world these two know. Like when you've dated the same person since you were 16 and you know you still live in the same place that you grew up. I mean, granted, like, you know, she's got a degree from MIT. They seem like very like book smart people. I just have to wonder, like, are they well prepared for the reality of travel? Have they gone somewhere and gotten lost and been able to cope with that? And I think that's what you get. I think that's sometimes the downfall of the younger couple teams is they've just not had the travel experience. They're not prepared for the actual pressure of it. Even you can watch every season of The Amazing Race and still not have any sense of how truly grueling it can be.
Yeah, this is one of the big challenges of this season and trying to do predictions that we have basically a picture, a paragraph, and a 1-minute video talking about the things that are mostly in the paragraph.
Yeah,
so
we don't even have the quiz. Yeah.
We don't even have a pet peeve.
Yeah. What's the thing you hate most about your partner? We don't know. We're just going to guess.
Well,
why are you going to win? We're guessing.
We shall see if Abby and Will go from book smart to saying, "Don't worry, darling," on The Amazing Race.
Wow.
Okay.
Feel free to spit on me due to that stupid joke.
I'm just going to sit and stare off into the middle distance.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on here. And surprise, surprise, it's another couple. This is Aubrey and David. They are Latin dancers. They met because Aubrey taught a dance class that David was attending. David, I believe, is a helicopter mechanic. And so she ended up like picking him out of a crowd a little bit to entertain him as both a dance partner and a romantic partner as well. And now Amazing Race partner.
Yeah. Okay. I believe as of recording time, we do not have a 1-minute video for Aubrey and David.
Okay, yeah, so I can talk a little bit about that. I did also actually, if you want a little bit of a sneak peek, I did post all the videos at my Twitter account at @AMikeBloomType on the day the cast released.
Okay.
So I screwed the system a bit.
They're on the EW page as well.
Okay.
But yeah, basically the story is that Aubrey taught David, and she invited him into be in her dance company, and that this is a couple that I think touts each other's balancing skills. surprise, surprise, a lot of couples are going to say this, right? That they're particularly well balanced. David, due to his job as a helicopter mechanic, is very detail oriented, very meticulous, and very patient. Aubrey is self-proclaimed crazy. And she is a businesswoman, so she has a lot of that like entrepreneurial go-getter spirit.
Wow.
Well, you know, we always talk, I think this comes up more often in conversation when we're talking Amazing Race Canada, but there's always that one task every season that is learn a choreographed dance. And there's always one team that cannot do it and gets upset and there's crying. This team is going to ace that task. So,
or it will be one of the worst 5 holes in recent memory.
We haven't had a good 5-hole in quite a while, Rob. I'm not going to say I want that for them. They seem like very nice people. I'd like to see them succeed, but I think there's always some kind of learned choreographed steps thing. And I think if you're a ballroom dancer, you have a little bit of familiarity with choreographed steps.
Yeah, these people I think are going to ace it. And I agree with you, Jess. Not only is it a guarantee because it's US Amazing Race, these are not the only dancers on the cast.
True.
So you know they're going to put that in there. And in this case, I think they'd be able to ace it. I like the variety in careers as well. We'll get into this with like our other, dancing as couples. But again, David is a helicopter mechanic. I think that's a very different type of mindset that is required. I mean, hell, if they do one of these random tasks they do sometimes from a mechanical perspective of like, fix this thing. Maybe he knows what a carburetor is, so Phil will be happy about that.
Alternator, Mike.
Alternator, that's what it is.
Get him on top of his nails. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that like it seems that they have a good sense in terms of skills. Obviously, I think with the Aubrey is crazy thing, I am a little worried about like high stress situations when push comes to shove, what might happen. This may be the couple that like becomes surprisingly spatty with one another. Again, not like to go back to Don't Worry Darling with Spitty. And I could see a possibility that like, despite how lovey-dovey they are in this moment, just due to their fiery personalities, that if there's something that they're not necessarily getting, if they're getting lost, or if they keep failing at a task, then like there might be some words being thrown about.
Yeah, that's true, Mike. But sometimes yelling at each other is just how you communicate. Like there are teams that we've seen go very, very far, even all the way to the end, yelling and screaming at each other the entire time. And sometimes if you have one of those teams that where one of them is very tempestuous and one of them is not, that, it goes back to balance. We have like the Blair and Haley of it all, or the Brooke and Scott. Those are not the greatest examples because those are obviously not dating couples, but they ended up going all the way to the end, maybe even because of, not necessarily even despite the extreme reactions to their circumstances.
All right, let's move on. Team number 4. It's another couple, but it's a familiar set of faces to those out there in the Big Brother audience. Yes, once again, Big Brother royalty has graced the stages. Again, they're wearing purple, so I think it also makes sense here. It is Big Brother 23 contestants that turned romantic once they hit the jury house. We are talking Claire and 3-time CBS reality show contestant himself, Derek X.
This is so fun. This is so exciting. I'm so glad that this is part of the Amazing Race 34. Just as a non-Big Brother person, I'm interested to know, what do you know about these two?
Well, Rob, it's funny that we call out my non-Big Brother status because I did end up watching at least 60% of this season of Big Brother, so I am familiar with these two. One thing I know in particular is that Claire is kind of one of us. Like she is a big reality person. I think known to the fandom before she was on the show.
Yeah.
So I have to root for people that come in with that level of fandom. And, people always say they're super fans, and it's like that can be a qualifying thing or a disqualifying thing. But she's not just a super fan. I think she was like aware that we existed. So
yeah. She also came into Big Brother with like a binder of like all of her preparation for Big Brother. I don't know if she has any other resource like that similar for the Amazing Race. But Mike, I think it's reasonable to imagine that she has, or maybe it was so unuseful, maybe she didn't even bother.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Claire at least checked out the season of The Amazing Race that had Survivor people on them, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'll check out Amazing Race 7 because of Rob and Amber, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that would make sense that she has at least some background knowledge on it, as opposed to Derek, who I think is very new to this entire process, right? His story has now come out that, like, he was watching Survivor on Netflix, right? Got really intrigued by the idea, reached out to casting. He got on Big Brother instead, even though he hadn't really seen the show. Claire has now caught him up on seasons of Survivor. So I imagine it's safe to say he doesn't necessarily know Amazing Race terribly well. But if there's one thing we know about Derek X is that he's like kind of unnaturally good at like a good amount of things, even if he has no preparation for it whatsoever. And that's sort of like the Amazing Race in a nutshell, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get there. But he also, this being his third CBS reality show, you cannot discount the asset of being used to having a camera in your face right out of the gate. I think that gives you a little bit of a head start. I think everybody gets used to it over time, but they already know what the camera wants from them. They're able to tune it out. I think that will help them in the early stages, at least.
Jess, have you watched the Challenge USA?
I have not. I
Yeah.
should have been, but this summer there was a lot on TV.
Yeah. Well, it's been very fun. Derek
Mhm.
X, well, I don't want to spoil things for you. But he is a good challenge performer.
Yeah,
That's what I hear.
Pretty good. Again, pretty good all around. I think his weakness was just like his size. I would say, again, he is like a skinnier person, especially compared to some of those big brochachos that were on the Challenge USA. Again, won't so much be the case here on The Amazing Race. I think what I do possibly have a worry about, though, is some of the physical aspects, a bit of the cardio stuff. Because I don't know how good these two are in like a cardio high running situation. And so it could be one of these things of, yeah, they might be good at the tasks when they get to them, but if they have to individually go from task to task,
Yeah.
that might be what slows them down.
I'm not worried about that. I think they're both in pretty good athletic shape.
Yeah, they seem fit enough. And it's also, the show has leaned away from that. Like, when was the last time we saw people get eliminated because of a bad cab driver? Or, it's much rarer for people to get lost and that be the reason they get out.
Right. I mean, more so from like a foot race perspective.
Yeah,
right?
and even from a foot race perspective, when was the last time we saw a true
Yeah.
foot race on this show?
We did have in the Amazing Race 33 the task of like go up and down like a million flights of stairs to go bring the wine bottles and stuff like that. So I feel like that there are like cardio elements of some of these challenges, but I don't feel like that's going to be the difference for Claire and Derek.
And there's nothing in here that I think they're going to struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're young, they're reasonably fit, and this is an older cast. Again, it goes back to, we don't have anybody on this task on this season that has been like, here are two Ironman triathletes and all they do is work out. We don't have that. That's not going to be, I think everybody is fit enough. I don't think anybody is like, there's not a lot of crazy fit people.
They're both like really fun personalities. Like we really have, this is a relationship that formed I guess starting in the jury house, so we never really saw it on our screens, to the point where I think I'm going to be very upset if I see them get into an argument with each other. We've never seen that
They're
before,
too precious.
and I don't know if I can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, at least like from what we see of them on social media. Now, look, that's a very skewed perspective, right? Because they are curating essentially what they want us to see. But yeah, not a lot of trouble in paradise. That like obviously a lot of people for various reasons were shocked when they had that Fabio-esque people shoot announcing that they were a couple. But it seems like the more we get to know them, like the more they actually are perfectly suited for each other. I think they both have very like dry, deadpan senses of humor, which are very fun. I do think they're going to be big characters on the race. Something that also lends a bit of credence, and Jess, you brought this up with something like Team Holderness last season, is they are obviously very comfortable in front of the camera. And so if there is any sort of like rust to shake off with some people early on as to like, why is this person looking at me at all times with this big mechanical object? This is making me feel a little nervous. For them, it's just another day in the park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just even small things like understanding, like how badly would it throw you if you were on The Amazing Race, you did a task, you nailed it perfectly, and then they said, okay, stop, you got to back up, you got to do this part again so we get it on camera. That might throw you a little bit. I think it will throw them a little bit less.
All right,
Okay.
let's move on here to a hell of a story. Here's our first non-couple that we're speaking about, 5 teams in. We're speaking about Emily and Molly, believe this, long-lost twins.
That's not a story you hear every day.
Certainly not.
Although, I watch films like It Takes Two, which is a documentary about 2 women that are sisters. Now, or they don't actually, or were they just doppelgangers, separated at birth? We don't know.
I mean, Mike, you and I watched Orphan Black.
Yeah, that's very true. And so 2 more members of the Clone Club here in Emily and Molly. So the story was that they were both adopted to different families. And then through taking like a 23andMe test, I believe, recently, through genetic mapping, they were reunited. And so they really are meeting each other essentially for the first time. They just met a year ago.
So I've done 23andMe, and there's that option of like, hey, check this box to see if you want to be in contact with people that may be related to you. And I'm always like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
I had the same option when I did it as well. And I'm like, okay, what year is it? 2017? Yeah, I'm good. I just have a feeling with the current climate. I don't know if I want to be talking with random strangers that I have to have my, DNA linked up to. But yeah, so these 2 have led pretty radically different lives up until now. So Molly,
and they both did that.
Yeah, I think so, or at least like one probably did it, and the other one like did it and probably opted into what you were saying, and then like one had their DNA in the system, right? So I was like, oh, you won't believe this. Not only is there a match, but like this person actually looks a lot like you, and so they're getting to know each other through the race, a term we have often heard beforehand that has worked out to, I would say, mixed success. But Molly has grew up like a bit of a dancer, a little bit more athletic. Emily is currently a single mother. So again, much like that hit documentary you're talking about, Rob, It Takes Two, or even, the documentary that's been remade so many times in The Parent Trap, we shall see if these 2 leading lives from very different perspectives will either balance each other out or just make them completely separate pages of the same book.
It is tough when it's somebody you don't know very well, but I wonder how much of that will be mitigated by, nurture over nature.
Yeah. Do you know yourself?
Yeah. How well do you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you hear that there's that story of the identical twins who were separated at birth, who met up later, and they drove the same kind of car, and they had the same favorite food, and they married women with the same first name and named their sons the same thing. Is this going to be one of those situations where they end up being similar enough that they get each other out of the gate?
Yeah. So they're twins. I think probably important to note, not identical twins,
Not
right?
identical.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
there's slight differences you can even see in this picture right here.
Yeah. So I guess so. It's just like I guess you do have a twin bond, but
listen, I'm from our perspective, this is amazing, right? Because with no offense to the great Lulu and Lala, good God, were we tearing our hair out last season of like, okay, which one's which? At least here we're able to get a sense, even through this picture. Emily's on the left, Molly is on the right. Still doesn't help that they wear the same clothing, but it'll at least be able to have us our notes be more distinctive than last season.
Mike, I admire that you even tried. There was a time when I cared enough about The Amazing Race that I would try to tell the identical twins apart. Like, I think I even knew which twinny was which at one point, but that was a long time ago.
Whose idea do you think it was to go on The Amazing Race?
23andMe.
Yeah, I wonder, like, if they, they send you the notification and we found somebody you're related to. Also, here's a link to apply for The Amazing Race.
I think it could be a bit of a Faustian contract of like, all right, we'll let you know who you're related to, but just so you know, if your story is juicy enough, we are automatically applying you to be on The Amazing Race together.
Do you opt in?
Wow, that's That's a conspiracy theory and a half.
That'd be an interesting season, would it not? If we have enough of these stories and we just fill an entire season full, it'd be basically perfect strangers, but they're actually related to each other.
Wow.
Amazing Race Long Lost Relatives Edition.
Yeah. All right. Get
They're
on the
pioneering.
sponsorships, Paramount Plus. Come on.
Yeah, there's a couple of these DNA companies. Like, figure out which one is most likely to sponsor this, and you've got like a whole season-wide arc of what would the product placement even be, though? Like, what do you win on the leg if it's sponsored by 23andMe?
Go back to Mike. You want to go back to your "Don't worry, darling" jokes?
Yeah, exactly. Here's a container. You know what to do. Let's see if we can find some more for a returnee season.
Yeah, $23,000.
Oh boy, yeah. So Emily and Molly, their story is fantastic. I do not know how much we're going to see of their story on The Amazing Race, though. It just seems like, for whatever reason, their skill sets aren't necessarily sticking out to me whatsoever. They could completely surprise me. I want them to stay on as long as possible because this is a genuinely intriguing relationship idea. That like, this is someone who shares so much in common with you, but you do not know them from a hole in the wall until 365 days ago, and now you have to play in this stressful environment where you can only lean on each other. That's an absolutely invigorating idea for a couple, but I'm not sure, given their background, like how adept they will be for the race.
Yeah, I don't know that spells race success. And we've had similar concepts. Like, I think we have had a birth mom and her daughter that had just met. And I think they're here for the big story, and that's about it. There's a couple of teams where I feel that way. I think they're here because it's an interesting story. And once we tell that story, I don't see them necessarily blowing the other teams out of the water race-wise.
Yeah. Just also in Big Brother 4, Big Brother did a twist called Project DNA, where they had long lost brother and sister that was Cowboy and Nokomis. That were they stepsisters? Or they were actually full.
They were half.
They were half. Yeah, they shared the same father. And I remember that when one of them, I think it was Nokomis maybe, who first won HOH. Like, the dad sent a letter being like, "Yep. So this is what happened. Good luck playing together. Hope one of you doesn't vote the other one out at Final Four. Bye."
So, all right. We'll see. Interesting stories have come out of this before, so hopefully we get more from Emily.
Wait, did he write 2 letters, or did he just write 1 letter, like to Cowboy or Nokomis?
Yeah, to whoever finds this first between my 2 children. And then that was also the season with the twins that switched out, though Emily and Molly would not be able to pass off as much as Natalie and Adria did.
Yeah, maybe it might be a little bit more of a Liz and Julia thing.
All right, let's move on here. 6th team, Glenda and Lumumba. Now, these are certainly 2 people who could not switch out and be indistinguishable for many reasons. This is a very recently married couple. I believe they just got married 1 year ago. But their big thing, emphasis on big, I suppose, is, I believe their actual, like, lower third, right, is big and small newlyweds. She's 6'2", he's 5'7". What's gonna happen? Come find
out on CBS this fall.
Look, I am all for, like, as a very tall person. Yeah, and, Derek and Claire, the height discrepancy is not quite as much, but I think we should normalize women being taller than their partners.
Oh yeah,
this is great. I saw these 2. I'm like, I immediately like them.
Yeah. Well, they're really fun. They have a fun video, Glenda and Lumumba. And so very excited to get to watch them play on The Amazing Race.
Yeah, they're gonna have a lot of fun together. I mean, their dynamic almost does seem like something out of a CBS sitcom, Rob, of like Lisa Leslie and Kevin Hart star in The Big and the Short of It, reboot edition. I don't know why that's the first one that I thought of.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Not a lot of details in terms of like their background. They do say, again, from the well-balanced perspective, that Glenda is somebody who is more action-oriented and forward, whereas Lumumba is someone who is very detail-oriented. Their career path, Glenda is, I think, like an insurance underwriter. Lumumba is a teacher, which I think, speaking of, again, that detail-orientedness perspective and patience, this is another team that I really don't know how they're going to do, but we're going to have fun watching them regardless on however long they last.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all in for them. I want them to win. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they're realistically on my list of likely winners.
Yeah, they are, I think, both on the older side. They're both 41.
Yeah, that's one foot in the grave, Mike.
Exactly. When it comes to reality TV perspectives, get the wheelchair out for grandpa and grandma.
I was happy that we had so many teams in their 30s and 40s on this season, because it really, sometimes I sit there and it's like, we're not going to let age slow us down. Like, I'm older than you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm older than the old team,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But these guys aren't the old team anyway.
Yeah. I really think it comes down to like what kind of shape you're in. And these two look like that they are in really great physical condition. So I'm not super concerned about them being too old for the Amazing Race.
Now, we go back, though, to the stuff we just talked about with Emily and Molly. So these two have been married a year. They've only known each other for 2.5 years. And look, you could certainly fall head over heels, instantly a lot about a lot of person, but I'm imagining they're going to learn a lot about each other over the course of this race.
Mm-hmm.
Devil's advocate, Mike. The last 2.5 years count as 15 years.
Wow.
True. That's a good point. That basically they've lived through, their relationship has survived a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like how you get to count yourself as a New Yorker if you were here on 9/11.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If you were together during the pandemic and you stayed together, I think that counts for a lot.
Happy 30th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There are dog years and there are pandemic years.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Very fair.
All right, let's move on here to Luis and Michelle. So they are another married couple. So Luis is a firefighter and Michelle is a backup dancer for Mr. Worldwide himself, Pitbull.
Okay, well, no better preparation for the Amazing Race than spending time with Mr. Worldwide, okay?
Fair.
I mean, I can think of 15 others, but I'm sure it's up there, I guess.
Mike, he's literally Mr. Worldwide, okay?
And I guess the literalization did help. We do have Harlem Globetrotters that have now played 3 seasons, so maybe it is just in the name.
Yeah. All right.
I don't think Pitbull himself would do great on The Amazing Race, but I think Michelle's going to be okay.
Why not?
I think he would just get too distracted. Like every town he goes to, he's trying to find some place to party.
And that's true. That's true. Yeah. But
I don't know about his physical.
Pitbull,
I don't know about his physical stamina. I think he might run out of gasolina after a few legs.
I'm saying.
Okay. All right. So more dancers. Definitely a good track record for Amazing Race dancers, right?
Yeah, and plus, again, much like we were talking about before with Aubrey and David, diversity in skill sets. And Luis is a firefighter. I think Michelle is definitely the more dance-oriented, but I would imagine that he certainly has had to keep up a couple times, but he has that physical strength. I think he has that veracity, that courage as well to just throw himself into something. Again, Rob, to quote something that we talked about in our Survivor 43 interviews, right? You get a lot of life experience running into a burning building, as some people might claim. And so Luis has that in spades. And I think that's really going to help them here. And I do think also, unlike Aubrey and David, I'm not seeing a lot of our personalities might clash over the course of the race. It seems like genuinely they get along well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And they are married. Do we know how they met? How does a Pitbull's backup dancer run into a firefighter?
Well, if the dance floor is on fire, who are you going to call?
I guess so. Okay. What does their shirt say?
Raised.
Raised.
I'm assuming it's raised. I thought the bottom would say CrossFit, but I don't think it says CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if somebody's getting paid by CrossFit to shill for their company while they're on The Amazing Race, I think if CBS signs off on that, I have to consider that incredibly questionable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So that is Luis and Michelle. I don't believe that they have a video up yet either on, but of course we can go to EW. Yes.
Breaking news are happening now, and I'll flash back actually a little bit to the first slide here. So it says, "Raised on croquetas" is the shirt that they're both
Ah,
wearing.
well,
Okay.
okay. I support that. I love croquetas.
Okay. Hashtag team raised on croquetas. What is a croqueta?
It is a fried snack. The ones that I enjoy the most are, I believe, Cuban and provenance, and it's potato and some kind of meat, and it looks like a mozzarella stick, but it's much, much better than a mozzarella stick.
Okay.
All right, so we shall see if they keep their chances alive in the game long enough to win, or will they croak at the starting line.
Don't at me when I turn out to be wrong about the original provenance of the croqueta, because I've had them at tapas bars, I've had them at Dominican places, I've had them at Cuban places. I may be Ms. Worldwide when it comes to croquetas.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's move on from someone who's dealing with Mr. Worldwide to someone with a copious amount of international experience. Linton and Shariq. For the second season in a row, we're getting a father-daughter team. And actually, I would say, certainly similar vibes to Arun and Natalia in that here is a father who immigrated from another country to America. In Linton's case, it was Jamaica. And as a result, he raised his daughter, Shariq, here. And much like, again, Arun and Natalia, they have sort of traveled vicariously through The Amazing Race. Linton actually moved to the United States in 2001, which was the year The Amazing Race premiered. And so Shariq has kind of grown up with the show in her household.
It's horribly rude when people go on the show and have watched Amazing Race since they were toddlers, given that, we were nominally adults when it came out for the first time. I feel so old.
Okay. Look, what are you gonna do? At least Linton is older than us. Yeah,
exactly. These Amazing Race contestants keep getting younger, but we stay the same age. But the exact opposite. So Linton is an assistant principal, but they talk up the fact that he is very athletic, especially for a man of his age. He's 50. And so he definitely does not look it. And Shariq is a master's student and is definitely, I think, the brainier of the two. So they are hoping, again, that sort of brain and brawn balance is going to come into play, and they can sort of help fill each other in when it comes to running this race, despite having the largest age discrepancy on the entire season.
Yeah. Also, claim to be big fans of the show. So they have that experience coming in.
Can work for you or against you.
Yeah, and I think Linton, as well as someone who immigrated to America, I think, listen, it's a bit apples and oranges, but I think has a bit of experience with like dealing with new environments, possibly handling, any barriers from a cultural perspective that might be there as well. Yeah, it's tough, right? Because again, we just watched Arun and Natalia, who made it all the way to Final Four. Let's not sneeze at that. I would not say in the most dominating fashion. And you look at this similar dynamic and story, and you're like, okay, are we just in for the same thing? I don't know. I think I have faith in Linton and Shariq here. Now, look, they might end up falling apart a bit. They do admit that sometimes they butt heads. We did see that happen a couple times with Arun and Natalia as well on the race, where they'll just like get into arguments with each other just based on the age difference or like typical dad-daughter stuff. But I feel at least their background puts them in a fairly good place going into the race.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel as good about them as I have about any father-daughter team.
I mean, historically, how have the father and daughter teams done? We just did see Arun and Natalia last season, Jess.
I mean, most of them end up middle of the road.
Yeah.
We have not had any go very far.
Yeah, the most successful, I think, was Gary and Mallory when they made the top 3 of Unfinished Business.
Yeah, Gary and Mallory are really they're the kind of iconic U.S. father-daughter team. We went into this a little bit on the Amazing Race Canada recap this past week, actually, about parent-child teams and how, we've had one champion in Canada and one champion in the U.S. I think we're due for another one.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the highest placing, I think, now thinking back, it's probably, listen, with no offense to Gary and Mallory, but I would push back and say the most infamous father-daughter pair has to be Ron and Christina. No, he went
Yeah,
as
all
far
the way
as
to second place.
second place in their original season. And so maybe Linton and Shariq are able to, capitalize on that success and just go one step further to make it across the finish line in first place.
Here's hoping. Maybe a little bit less intense.
Yeah, hopefully, again, they talk a lot about butting heads. Ron and Christina would not stay away from each other's throats, specifically from Ron's perspective, right? And it doesn't seem like, again, we only got a 1-minute glimpse that Linton has that sort of I just want better for you vibes that Ron certainly had over the course of his seasons. But to your point, sometimes that ends up connecting well to success on this race.
It's true. If that's just the way you talk to your partner and it's not something new, I think it doesn't really affect how you turn out.
All right. Next up, we've got brothers Marcus and Michael. So these are military brothers, is specifically their lower third. They're both, I think, in different factions. I don't even think that's a term of the army. I'm just clarifying really quickly. Yeah. So I believe Michael is an Air Force fighter pilot and Marcus is an Army tank commander. But Marcus is the older brother, and the story is very much like Michael has kind of followed in his steps through a lot of his life, including entering the armed forces, as well as getting into the Amazing Race.
Okay. Look like a formidable duo, I would have to think, for Marcus and Michael coming in. That they are, on opposite sides of the country in Georgia and New Mexico.
Yeah, how much time have they spent together in recent years? That would be my question.
Yeah, they're even in the separate branches of the armed forces as well. So it's not necessarily that they're meeting up with each other. It's a good question, but I think they have a lot of, again, very good skills for this. They said they're very well traveled. I think even outside of what their work permits in general, it's clear even just looking at these pictures, right? They are part of the army, so it makes sense that they've got the guns out when it comes to these pics, that they are very physically strong. They also mentioned that Michael has an Ivy League education as well, so there's a little bit of brain power that they're hiding.
But guess which school?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's a good question. I'm not sure.
We would know. None of us know. That you have to be a detective to find out.
Yeah, and also it's totally misleading, Mike, on your article.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was going to be able to find this out because it says, Michael's Ivy League education, and education is hyperlinked. And it turns out that Parade just throws in random hyperlinks about articles. I don't think you put this in here, but it just links out to inspiring educational quotes. This is not related.
Those are our AI overlords, right? They just find little hit words and decide to put random links into articles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Marcus and Michael, coming from a military background, Jess, how have teams coming from the armed forces done historically?
I think not as well as you might think. I imagine being in the military is it's a very particular mindset that you have to have, and it does teach you mental toughness. It does, obviously, you have to be physically strong to be in the military, but you also, there's a certain amount of inflexible thinking, I think, that happens if you are a career military that sometimes trips you up on the Amazing Race.
Yeah.
Mike, would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's certainly Rachel and Dave, right, is a good example of having that mindset. I think certainly discipline and fortitude is we talk about Army Strong for a reason, right? Because that definitely is fostered within you. And it's not like these two are, they've been, they're done with their duty. I believe their current careers listed are still affiliated with the forces. So they're still actively a part of it, still physically engaged, still mentally engaged. I'd be intrigued from a creativity perspective.
Exactly what I'm getting at. Yes.
What comes from that? However, again, if Michael indeed has this sort of more liberal arts Ivy League education, that might be where they can fill in that possible weak spot. But yeah, that's the one thing I can really think of. Though I don't know, from terms of creativity, I'm trying to think even when it comes to things like cake decorating or painting the door, that's not so much creativity as it literally is, here is a blueprint, just copy it.
Mm-hmm. Forgot about painting the door.
Oh, Dusty and Ryan will never let you forget it.
Okay. Mike, who else do we have?
Quentin and Maddie. So these are former cheerleaders for the Los Angeles Rams. Probably could have used them in last week's season opener. And this is actually a very rare dynamic on Amazing Race. The heterosexual couple that are just best friends. Usually when we see a heterosexual team, it's usually either blood relation or dating. But no, they're just really good friends and former cheerleaders.
Okay. Quentin and Maddie.
There's no like Flo and Zach.
Mhm.
We're trying to see if it will work for us. It's like, no, they're just platonic friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they look like they are. Again, we have a lot of dancers in this cast. So
Yep.
I think we're gonna definitely see something where it's like learn this local dance. And I don't want
That's
bad
hot
things.
on TikTok, Jess. Maybe that's what the Amazing Race is going for.
Amazing Race All TikTok Dancers Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. Well, it's not a great record on CBS reality TV as of late with casting those types of people.
No,
Yeah.
not much.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, their careers now are based in dance. Quentin is currently a choreographer. Maddie is a dance coach. I think the thing that is really being touted by both them and Phil is their energy. They talk about wanting to laugh all the way along the race, and they have that sort of high energy spirit that comes with cheerleaders, right? I would also say from like a physical perspective, I feel like sometimes we almost underrate the physical skills that are necessitated for being a cheerleader, right? Besides balance, you do have to have just like an incredibly strong core. The men who are usually throwing whole ass people in the air need to have a huge amount of upper body strength too. You can see that on Quentin too. And so again, like they're probably not as visually stacked as the people that they are cheering on from the sidelines, but I think it still requires a fair amount of physicality to it.
Do we think among the dancing teams that there could be some sort of like easy bonds to see of people like working together?
Either that or a rivalry.
Rivalry.
Like, are we doing a more of a step it up kind of situation?
Dance off.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I'd love to see that. Instead of the face-off, they'll bring that back, right? Instead of racing around in wheelbarrows wearing fry costumes, you have to do a dance-off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it seems like they're going to bring a lot of light and laughter to the energy. He says that his focus is more on physical strength. Her focus is more on attention to detail. It seems like a good team on paper. I think they're also used to, again, like we spoke about a bit with Derek and Claire, like being in the spotlight, being able to perform in a manner of speaking. So yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of negatives for the two of them. Maybe they're just not that big fans of the show. And so maybe they would be more surprised by some elements of the race than some of these other teams. But I think they certainly have the skill sets to help support themselves if they're left in the lurch.
Yeah, and it's never really held back. We've had teams of cheerleaders multiple times on this show, and they've always gone much further than you would expect. So I don't think it's necessarily something that will hold them back. I think their strength will, I think as like a physically strong team that knows each other well and works well together, I don't think not knowing the show as well will be a weakness for them.
Okay.
All
Mike,
right.
who's next?
Last couple of teams here. Rich and Dom. These are dating motivational speakers.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, so they've been together for about 3 years, and they're all about, listen, if Quentin and Maddie are about the laugh, they're all about the light. You even see in some of these commercials, right? Like Dom is very much, I don't know if she's talking up Rich or talking up the other teams, but like she is already putting the mantras that is her bread and butter to use in terms of the Amazing Race.
And she has the most incredible hair. They call it the Merfairy vibe.
Yeah, so she says she has a Merfairy vibe where she's a little loony, but she says that she's very good at understanding the social game and specifically like understanding and working with people. Again, I'm not entirely sure if that's as big of a deal in a U-turn-less season of The Amazing Race, and especially I think in a post-Mine 5 world where teams are a little less inclined to like hard and fast lock into working with each other for the entirety of the race. But it could work out in certain circumstances where it's like, well, we like Rich and Dom. We want to keep them around. So yeah, we'll give them the answer to this.
Yeah, maybe that they're just like so motivating that nobody ever wants to see them out of the race.
Yeah, if they make you want to be your best self, of course you want to keep that around.
Oh, we love them too much. We can't risk letting them go. All right. Rich and Dom, you take my spot.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that like Phil is gonna have a lot of fun with them because I think they're gonna have a lot of interplay with Phil back and forth. They're probably gonna inspire him at the mat to go on and be like, "Yeah, I can make like 30 more seasons of Tough as Nails."
Phil, come on.
Phil does not need to be inspired to make more seasons of Tough as Nails.
That is true. Yeah,
more seasons of Amazing Race, maybe.
Yeah, so again, I'm not sure from a physical perspective what their background is. Again, their vocation is more so of the verbal than it is the physical.
Well,
but
Dom is a gym owner.
Is he? I thought he was also a motivational speaker.
Rich is a life coach. Yeah, she is a gym owner.
Oh, she's a gym owner. He's a life coach. But they're both motivational speakers, I suppose, on the side.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could. I mean, I don't know if it's like the biggest stretch to imagine a gym owner also being a motivational speaker.
Yeah, like what if you go to the gym, you want someone there who's going to make you want to perform.
Should there be an in-house motivational speaker at all gyms? Like, should you walk into your Planet Fitness and there's a Tony Robbins type being like, you know, there's a you in success, be that you, or will that throw you off your game?
I mean, I think that's a lot of personal trainers. Yeah,
it is a lot of personal trainers. You can pay extra for that, but in Planet Fitness, you're definitely not going to get that.
You got this.
Planet Fitness costs $15 a month. I think you probably.
But there's no lunks allowed, Jess.
Yeah, no lunks allowed and no motivational speakers.
no lunks, no motivational speakers. That's
those are 2 rules.
But you know, they have massage chairs.
Yes,
the one in my neighborhood does.
It's a good point. Yeah, I totally overlooked because again, it seems like maybe Dom, the motivational speaking stuff is less so her like, you know, choice profession, but I think that could mean she'll be a nice physical presence, and maybe she's probably keeping Rich in shape. I would imagine, in a manner of speaking, to help deal with some of the rigors of the race.
Yeah, Equinox would have an in-house motivational speaker. Planet Fitness, not so much.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued now from Dom, like, it's the chicken or the egg, right? Like, did the gym ownership lead to motivation? Did the motivation lead to being like, well, I want to better their bodies as well as their minds? It's an interesting story.
Yeah, or she could be, like, it depends on what kind of motivational speaker you are, too. Like, are you motivating people to succeed on a personal level or on a business level, or are you helping them find relationships? Like, it's a wide field. So I think it really depends on what kind of motivating they do.
Yeah, so Dom is going to be a Murph area, and we'll see if their chances of winning are as existing as that thing is.
Yeah. All right. One more team that we have to talk about here on our preview. Very excited.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Rob is turning. Rob is hulking out as we speak, and turning green. I think is understandable because we are talking about former Jets coach Rex Ryan and his golf buddy Tim.
See, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, Rob must be mad at Rex Ryan or not like a Rex Ryan. I love Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan is a big character. That the times that he was the coach of the New York Jets were some of like the Jets have not tasted success since Rex Ryan has left. So while that maybe like if you talk to me in like 2013 and he was coaching the Buffalo Bills, that the wounds would be fresh. No, the Jets have like only like sniffed the playoffs once since Rex Ryan has been gone, and he's been gone 10 years. So I love Rex Ryan. He is a big character. He's a big personality. I really question how well he will do on The Amazing Race, because when he was the coach of an NFL franchise, people were like, boy, I wish Rex would take this more seriously. Now here he is on The Amazing Race. I just like imagine him like going to the different tasks and just like goofing around and not like does he have a fire in his belly to compete in The Amazing Race? I suspect not, but for the 1 or 2 episodes that we get him, I think it'll be very fun.
Well, you can see by looking at the photo that he's not taking it seriously, because this man is not dressed for The Amazing Race.
He's in sweatpants.
Yeah, he's not in athleisure. He's not wearing anything that like
Yeah.
moves with you. He's wearing like Hanes sweatpants and a long sleeve t-shirt that's about 3 sizes too big for him. And it's like one of those Gildan t-shirts, like,
yeah,
you know, the cheapest possible ones that you get printed up. He's not wearing anything that wicks away moisture.
yeah.
We'll
To the
just put
point,
it that way.
Mike, that is this a Scaramucci here? Like, is this even a real team on the race?
I think it's gotta be though. Like, listen, we've had Jimmy Johnson play Survivor before.
Yeah, look how that went.
Exactly. Well,
Right.
listen, I'm not saying it's for longevity. I will say though, watch the first leg they go, and it's that one roadblock of, okay, taste the sandals and figure out which one is chocolate. He's like, all right, I've got this one.
I'm in.
I've been prepping my whole life for this. I mean, yeah, listen, these guys, there's a reason why they're wearing dinosaurs on their paraphernalia. They are Team T-Rex because it is Tim and Rex, but like, I also think they might be a thing of the past by the time this race is done. Though their story, yes. So when Rex Ryan was announced to be on this, there was a lot of questions, right? As to like, okay, is his son going to be on this?
Is his brother going to be on
or
it?
is his brother? Yeah. No, this is a man
or his
by the
wife,
name.
famously. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is a man by the name of Tim Man, quite literally. And they met golfing. You know, Rex sort of like retired in Tennessee. Met Tim, who was a fan of the Buffalo Bills when Rex was tanking the Buffalo Bills in his last couple of years as a coach.
I mean, I don't know if he like tanking implies like trying to lose on purpose.
Well, I guess incidentally tanking, perhaps.
Yeah.
But essentially, they became buds, and so they decided to run the Amazing Race together. And yeah, Tim is 40, Rex is 59. It's not looking good. I could go on the John Madden board and draw out 50 different reasons why we probably will not see these guys past the third leg.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to convince any of us, Mike. I want to highlight what I think is the most fascinating piece of the Rex Ryan on the Amazing Race story.
Yeah.
Which is, okay, so I think our listeners are familiar with a website called Reality Fan Forum.
Okay.
Which every year, like, and they've been around like almost since the beginning of the Amazing Race, perhaps since the actual beginning. And the crack team at Reality Fan Forum, every season, they are the ones who spoil the Amazing Race. They're like the reality Steve of the franchise. And I dip in there to see like who the teams are. I try to avoid anything about like where they place, but I like to know where they're going and who they are. And they do this amazing job of just following social media. Anytime anybody says anything about, I saw the Amazing Race filming in my town, they jump on these people and get every detail out of them. They get photos of production, and they get these grainy photos of people out on the race course. And then they identify who these people are based on like, did somebody say their first name? What do they look like? Who's been off of social media for a while? And they're very, very good. Like Derek and Claire, they identified on like day 3 of filming.
Oh, listen, never doubt the sleuthing skills of Big Brother fans, as the internet has recently proven, Rob, in the past 48 hours.
Yeah. So the thing that blows my mind is Reality Fan Forum was able to identify 11 of 12 teams out on the race course. And the person they did not identify was the actual celebrity that was out on the race course.
Yeah, this has to be, I think, one of the biggest, like, out of nowhere in terms of, again, the fandom who are in. Because, again, maybe it's just the circles that we run in, but, like, to be honest, I had heard that Derek and Claire were going to be on the Amazing Race. I heard neither hide nor hair that Rex Ryan was going to be on. Even back in the days when we had, like, you know, Joey Chestnut on. Those types of celebrities, I think, were still relatively flagged. For whatever reason, Rex evaded the radar here.
Obviously, maybe not NFL fans over there trying to crack the Amazing Race lineup.
Yeah, but how is it possible that somebody around the world didn't say, oh my God, I saw Rex Ryan running past me and I think he's on the Amazing Race? How did that not happen? Like, it's not just Reality Fan Forum. Remember, it's like everybody out in the world. So
I don't know.
I'm boggled by this, and I don't know if that just means they weren't out there long enough for anybody to spot them or what. But
well, I'm gonna savor it. I'm gonna try to enjoy this as much as possible.
Oh yeah,
but
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, do not feel great about. I feel better about the Jets' chances in 2022 than I do about Rex on The Amazing Race. Okay.
Well, what's interesting is I might posit a question to like both and the audience as well. I think Rex Ryan might be the most famous person to ever be on The Amazing Race.
You know, I'd have to go back and flip through, but I would say he's in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, like I know there have certainly been people that have gone off and like created, fame for themselves. Like Stassi Schroeder, for instance, from Vanderpump Rules, was on the Family Edition. But I do think when it comes to notoriety going in, again, compared to Jimmy Johnson, who I personally think is the most famous person to ever play Survivor, I think very similar vibes here.
Yeah. And I think it really comes down to how you measure fame, because maybe you could argue about Tyler Oakley or some of like the social media influencers. Yeah.
Rob and Amber at their height as well in like 2004.
No, Rex Ryan better than Rob and Amber.
I will say, like, I'm not a sports person and I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. Like, if I was responsible for spoiling The Amazing Race, he'd probably be the 24th person I identify too.
All right. And so there we have it. All 12 teams. How do you both feel? Do you feel more educated by the teams? You ready to draft?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good talking them through. Again, we just have so little information to go off of. Usually we're like looking for some sort of like a crumb from a bio, like, oh, okay, they said this. Okay, I like that. Really, we're just going a little bit more off of like trying to figure out like the relationship and how that's done in the past. Okay. Do we have a draft order?
I think Jess should pick it. She's the one who went all in on Team Holderness last season and won it all. I think she should have the duties of being able to figure out who goes when.
Yeah. Can I also throw something out? That should we? Okay, there are 3 of us here. Okay, 12 teams. While the math does work perfectly. I do like it when there's the possibility that people we didn't draft go on to win, and we look foolish. Should we only draft 3 teams each? Or do you like the symmetry of everybody being drafted?
I like the symmetry of everybody being drafted.
Okay.
I think when there's an odd number, I like having the outlier team. But I think for this exercise, we've got the 12 teams. This never happens. We might as well.
All right. Take advantage. All right. So Jess, what is the draft order going to be?
Well, how did you guys do between the 2 of you? I feel like, Rob, maybe we should have you go first, because I'm pretty sure that if there was some kind of like scoring metric, I think you were in 3rd.
Yep. Historically, not a great this isn't my best draft.
Yeah, again, much like your beloved Jets, right? Like, you don't have a great last season, so you get first pick in the draft.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. All right. And then who's up second?
Followed by Mike, and I'll go 3rd.
Okay. Cool. Is it a snake draft or is it back 1, 2, 3?
Let's just go around 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right. I will go with the first pick overall. I'm just gonna go with history here. I think Marcus and Michael.
Yeah, that was gonna be my pick as well. I was ready to lose myself with Eminem.
Okay. I mean, I feel like that historically, the team of like 2 athletic men together feels like that does really well on the show. That I kind of got hosed on the Eminem pick last season, but we don't need to talk about that. And then I don't know. It seemed like both seem like smart guys. Military background. I'll take Marcus and Michael, number 1.
Okay, great. Mike, to you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say, give me a Quentin. Give me a Maddie. I'm going to go with the cheerleaders here. Again, I think they are underrated from a physical perspective and a stamina perspective. Seems like they just have a really good head on their shoulders. And I think, their ability to like have a similar skill set, but I think be diverse enough in the way that they approach things, I think is really the key. I think it's maybe a bit overrated to be like, oh, we help fill in each other's faults. I do think it's ideally in an Amazing Race partner, you want to have someone who like is good at the same things you're good at, but approach it maybe from a different perspective in case you don't have the same headspace for it. And I think that Quentin and Maddie, I don't see really any big red flags with them. And I think from even a physical perspective, they're going to be able to at least muscle the way through the first part of the race.
Okay.
Solid pick, Mike. All right. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Team Big Brother.
Okay.
Look at this. The only non-Big Brother watcher picking the Big Brother team.
I want to reiterate, I did watch this season. So, I'm not a Big Brother watcher, but I did watch most of the season that they were on. And so I feel like I did get a handle on their strategic minds. I think they're both solid challenge competitors, and you cannot discount the experience in front of a CBS reality camera. I think that helps them a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They will be really fun to watch. And my, sort of talking this through, I'm a little regretting that I didn't take them with the first pick, but
I'm surprised you didn't, and I'm surprised Mike didn't.
Mm-hmm. I think I just really going through the teams oh, there's only one team that's two guys. I feel like that's usually pretty good.
Yeah, I guess so. So who you got next, Rob?
Okay. Then I'm going to go to the other team I had at the top of my draft board. Aubrey and David, to me, seem like I know that Aubrey did refer to herself as crazy in her bio, but this just seems like a team that seems like that they have some different skill sets that I feel like they are not the super fans, but I definitely feel like that they are a team that could really dominate in a lot of the challenges. So I'm going to go with Aubrey and David.
Okay.
And I will follow up with the other dancerly couple here. I'm going to go with Liese and Michelle. I talked before about how I feel like Luis's background as a firefighter, I think, could really help them here. That you have that similar dance background to some of the other teams that we talked about. And I think them having a bit of stability in their relationship, from what I'm perceiving, I think will also be able to help their dynamic perhaps a bit, as opposed to Aubrey and David, who are a bit more combustible, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Okay, with my pick, I'm just going to go with the team that I feel like I'm going to be cheering for, the team I want to win. So I'm going to go with Aastha and Nina.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
They're fans of the show. They're one of only two female teams on the board. I'm going to want them to do well. And I think of the two female teams, I think they're the ones that are going to go further.
Okay. Aastha and Nina goes to Jess. Okay. With the 6th pick. All right. On to the second half. Okay. I am going to go with I'm going to take Glenda and Lumumba.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I think they're pretty fun. I feel like that they have a good skill set. I don't think they're too old for the Amazing Race, and I feel like that they're going to be a lot of fun. So give me the team in salmon.
All right. Well, I'll fish for this next one. Let's continue the streak, I suppose, of teams that seem fun, not to be confused with team fun. I'll take Rich and Dom here.
Okay.
I think that, that last minute thing about Dom owning a gym, I think maybe filled in the one possible gap that I had about them with the lack of physicality. But I think, this is me personally, I think willing them to do well on the race, because they do seem like such an interesting team. And it seems like at least a lot of their skill sets would match up and at least give themselves the mental fortitude to push themselves through the toughest things.
Okay.
So then with my pick, I'll go with the last couple on the board. Give me Abby and Will. I think they're young. They've got a lot of energy. They know each other very well, and they've got a lot of book smarts. So I think their youth might not be on their side, but let's see them surprise us.
I think that's a steal at number 9.
I think you're right.
Okay. All right. So, look, while this man made some draft picks that didn't work out as planned, and I could name them all, okay? I have to take T-Rex,
yes,
Tim, and Rex.
How they were not the last team off the board is shocking. But
No,
not
you
shocking
have
at
to.
That
the
was
You
a
same
have
hard
time.
to.
pick. That was
You
a
have
hard
to root
pick,
for them.
Jess.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
rooting for Rob.
If either Emily and Molly or Linton and Shariq win the Amazing Race, so be it. Okay, I already blew it by not taking them in the first 3 rounds.
I mean, listen, how many opportunities does Rob Cesternino get to actually draft someone affiliated with the New York Jets on a reality show?
And how many times do I want to? Yeah, not since we had the former Jets cheerleaders.
Oh yeah, very true. Again, speaking of cheerleaders, back in the day of Tiffany and Krista.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, I am making technically the last pick here and relegating Jess. Look, I love me some symmetry. I've picked only male-female teams so far. Let's continue this square dance and do-si-do. I gotta pick Linton and Shariq.
That was a misdirect. When Mike said I love symmetry, I said okay.
Yeah.
No,
But they're not identical.
not identical. That's why he's a big symmetry fan. All right, Linton and Shariq.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a team that could surprisingly do well. I don't want to come in and be like, I think I made a steal, but I do think that this is perhaps maybe age sort of precedes the way that we're perceiving them. Much like we keep talking about, again, father-daughter duos tend to make it at least pretty well into the middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pick. I think I probably would have gone there. But I'm not unhappy with having Emily and Molly on my team. I think they have an interesting story at least. So we'll have to see how they do. I don't think they're out first. So I don't think the fact that we drafted them last means anything.
Okay. All right. So to review, our Amazing Race drafted teams are for Rob. It's Marcus and Michael. It is I can't read my own handwriting as Aubrey and David. It is Glenda and Lumumba, and then Tim and Rex. Michael, who did you come away with?
So I have the cheerleaders, Quentin and Maddie. I have the married couple, Luis and Michelle. I have the dating motivational speakers, Rich and Dom, and then finishing it up with the father-daughter team of Linton and Shariq.
Okay, and Jess.
Okay. So I've got Team Big Brother, Derek and Claire. I have Aastha and Nina. I have childhood sweethearts, Abby and Will, and I have separated twins, Emily and Molly.
Okay. And that is your Amazing Race 34 draft. All right. Should be fun. And we are what? 1 week away, 8 days away?
Yeah. And I mean, it really snuck up on us fast. It doesn't help that the CBS reality is such a wonky schedule right now, right? Like tomorrow is
talk us through it, Mike.
Yeah, okay. So
give us the next couple of Wednesdays.
Exactly. I feel like I'm doing a weather forecast here for your reality television. So if you're a fan of CBS reality TV, this will hopefully recalibrate you. Tomorrow is going to be a 1-hour episode of Big Brother and then the 2-hour finale of the Challenge USA. The Challenge USA is officially Dunzo, not Enzo, as of tomorrow. Then next Wednesday, September 21st, 2-hour premiere of Survivor 43 and the 1-hour premiere of The Amazing Race 34. Which is also, it's so odd. I think this has to be the first time ever that we have 43 and 34, considering that, Survivor has now done away with the theming and now has just titled themselves numbers. I'm sure there are many confused people out there. September 28th is the really weird one, where now it is still Survivor and it's still Amazing Race. There's no Big Brother that night, despite the fact that the season is technically, it's not still going. It will have finished just a few days ago. But they're doing 2 90-minute episodes. So a 90-minute episode 2 of Survivor and a 90-minute episode 2 of The Amazing Race will be a very interesting experiment. I can't think of maybe any time we've had maybe like a 90-minute premiere, perhaps back in the old days of The Amazing Race. But I'll be intrigued to see how different it ends up feeling. And then the week after, starting on October 5th, we get settled into a schedule for the next couple of months at least. 8 p.m. 1-hour Survivor, 9 p.m. 1-hour The Real Love Boat, which I guess could be a subtitle for this season, considering how many freaking couples are on it. And then
The Love Plane.
Exactly. And then 10 p.m. 1-hour The Amazing Race.
Okay.
It just occurred to me, I think they did that specifically so that people could catch Survivor know-it-alls and then hop back onto CBS to watch Amazing Race.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
it was nice of them to do that.
Steven likes to get it over by 10 o'clock anyway, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and not that, and I know I'm a noted fan of the Amazing Race, Steven Fishback.
Yes.
Noted, again, note alternate universe, maybe perhaps previous contestant of the Amazing Race in a different variety.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Mike, thanks for talking that all through for us. Jess, what's going on for you these days?
Well, over at Post Show Recaps, I've been talking through Tales of the Walking Dead with our friend Josh Wigler and AJ Mass and Chappelle, and we are going to be covering the last 2 episodes of that season this week. And then that's just in time for regular Walking Dead to start back up. Really, much like the zombies on the program itself, it will never die. Even though this is the final season, we still have many, many spin-offs out there in the world that we'll be covering. And all things zombie can be found over at postshowrecaps.com. I also managed to review Tales of the Walking Dead for Variety, which was a fun thing that I got to do. Yeah. Really great experience there, and I hope I will get to do more for them in the future. I can retweet that link out there so you can find it on my social media.
Okay. Jess, great getting to have some podcasting to do with you here again on The Amazing Race. Looking forward to getting together again next week. Mike, what's coming up for you?
Oh boy, a lot. So we kept mentioning Survivor. Rob, at this point, you and I have 7.5 hours basically of preseason content out there for Survivor 43. I had the chance to interview the contestants preseason. You and I listened back to those interviews, talk through getting to know these 18 players. That is all up, as well as in written form over at parade.com. Speaking of Parade, for this upcoming Amazing Race season, as well as Survivor season, Exit Press will be happening. Those will be happening on Thursdays, as assumingly most weeks we'll be talking with an eliminated team. So very much going to keep staying on that streak up at parade.com, where I am also doing Exit Press for Big Brother and the Challenge USA, as those are finishing up. The B&B is going to be returning with Liana. I think we'll be doing a Survivor 43 preseason show and then kicking things off with our usual weekly rigmarole of fun and games going on starting next week. Finally finishing up Survivor South Africa as well, doing the last couple deep dives. And that's not even talking about post-show recaps. So House of the Dragon, recapping that with Grace Leader. Very intrigued, Rob, to get your thoughts on this past week's episode.
Really looking forward to getting to talk about it with Josh. I only watched it last night.
Yeah, a very polarizing episode, I would say, from across the internet. So lots of perspectives there.
I thought it was the best one from the season.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so excited to get your thoughts on that. I'm, of course, covering The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, as well, doing some Andor coverage, starting something new with Josh Wigler as well that we'll be announcing this week. So, yeah, fall has truly happened. I'm just chugging PSLs at this point and plugging away on podcasts and articles.
PSRs, yeah.
And I have PSLs on PSRs, and I could not be happier. And I'm excited to get back and doing this, getting to do the weekly recaps as well of these late night installments of the Amazing Race 34.
Okay. Well, this was a lot of fun to get back together. We'll also hopefully have an Amazing Race Exit Press for you this season as well. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.